All right, friends. We're going to do another installment of Aunt Barb's Magic Oven for you. A nice one, actually, with a very good idea in it. Pay attention to when I get to the 50-cent Christmas gift part. You'll see. Again, this is around page 20 in the book. By the way, if you ever want a copy of the book, just contact me and we'll get one out to you. They're not a king's ransom, as I often say, but they aren't. Unless you're a king of a very small kingdom or something, but you should be able to afford one of these. I would think not a whole lot. Okay, and I think you'll like the book. It'd be nice to have one. You keep it in the keep it in the bathroom there, and be a perfectly good reader. Or at the bed table. Anyway, okay. Well, here you go. Oh, gosh, you can keep it in the car and when there's a traffic jam or something. Yeah. Well, maybe not a good idea that, but anyway, here you go. Aunt Barb's Magic Oven, the 50-cent Christmas gift. After we crossed the tracks, I had to gun the motor as Grandma and I started up the big steep hill out of town. The Newcastle Power Company complex was on our right. I always enjoyed seeing all the transformers and wire towers in there in the side yard. You could look down into the yard as if you were a bird looking for a spot to land. It looked like a place where working with wet hands would not be a good idea. I was really glad to see the big old electric neon sign of Ready Kilowatt still standing on the side of the power company building. Ready was a man built out of lightning bolts. I think his head was a glowing light bulb, or it may have been a power meter, but I think a light bulb, I think. He had a fistful of white lightning bolts in each hand. At night, he'd glow red and flick on and off. I seem to remember that he'd wave to all who were lucky enough to pass below his watchful eye. His job was to cheer people up, and he did his job well. We passed Ready, and then in the rearview mirror, I could overlook the city below. We were up pretty high now, and I could see the old Johnson Bronze Company complex stretching out from the southeast side of town to as far as the eye could see. It had to take up a few square miles. Smokestacks were everywhere. You could tell that once there were jobs in that plant that took some skill and were very dangerous if you goofed up. Another key word might be catastrophic. Yes. There were a lot of huge red buildings on the site, and they looked to be very old, red brick buildings. Yes. They had lots of windows that you could open up to cool things off a bit on a hot day. Air conditioning was only a pipe dream back then when those buildings were built. There were buildings also with long, wide roof vents that must have allowed untold heat and vapors to escape. Rail lines went between many of the buildings, too. In short, it looked like it must have been a great place to work if you liked working hard. I think they made bronze bushings and fittings there. The plant in Newcastle supplied the world. Uncle Bill worked there as a tool and die maker, but that was a long while ago now. I asked Grandma if the plant ever reopened, and she said no. The whole place was empty now except for a handful of maintenance workers. Sometimes a section of a building would be rented to be a temporary warehouse. Other than that, the place was dead and the jobs went elsewhere. It just about killed the city when that happened. The plant went out of view, and when I made my left turn onto southbound Route 422. Barb and Bill Street would be coming up soon on the left. I asked Grandma if she remembered how Christmas changed when the Bronze shut down and many in the family lost work. She smiled and said that she sure did remember. She said how they all got together for a meeting one morning and decided that Christmas had to be heavily budgeted until things got better. They decided that even with a budget, the gifts had to be great, top-notch, and very well thought out. I remembered out loud that what they did was to put everyone's name into a hat twice. In other words, there were 2 slips of paper with your name on it placed into the hat. Then everyone each took turns pulling out 2 slips of paper. If you got your name, you put that slip back in the hat and try it again. This eventually gave each family member two people that they had to get gifts for. Now, here was the kicker. The gift could only cost no more than 50 cents. No other gift giving was allowed. The trick actually turned out to be a great idea. The budget made you really think and search and resulted in some of the greatest gifts ever given. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think Uncle Bill once got a chilled bottle of Iron City beer and a handmade bologna sandwich for Christmas morning. It was something he'd always wanted, he said. Yeah, Aunt Barb might have gotten a pot holder with fried chicken parts embroidered into it. Maybe one of the kids would get a stack of old Superman comics found at a late autumn garage sale. Grandma said that's how she got her that calendar of hers on the kitchen wall. It was a very old calendar and was indeed from St. Mary's Church across the street from her house. One of the kids must have found it in a garage sale and thought the picture was pretty. Being Grandma, she didn't care that most of the time the numbers of the day wouldn't line up with the day of the week. It had a pretty picture on it of Jesus in a garden, and a family member gave it to her for Christmas. That was good enough for Grandma. and on the wall it went, never to be taken down. It wasn't that big a calendar anyhow, and she could always get a bigger and more current calendar anytime around New Year's from McGonagall's funeral home next door. But that little calendar was a treasure and hung on the wall year in and year out. Grandma marked the important days onto her new Christmas present too. Birthdays were the first to go on. In the tiny square, she drew a little birthday cake and then put the birthday boy or girl's name where the icing would be. One date had a tear and a smile on it. That was to mark the day when her Frank passed away. The smile because, well, he was done with his suffering. He had suffered rather badly with his illness. That was to mark when Frank passed away. Other days were marked there too. The day my folks got married, the day each grandchild was born. You get the idea. She said that was one of her favorite gifts and that she prayed to it every day. Then one day, well, when it started speaking to her, the calendar turned into more than a calendar. I turned on to Barb and Bill Street. Their house was the last place on the left. If you went beyond their house, you'd plow into a big graveyard and miss all the fun. Okay, friends, I hope you are enjoying these, and I'm certainly digging bringing them to you. Reading this book is kind of fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you as well. Okay, well, thank you, and God bless. Have a good day.